everyone could see, we have enabled transferability. 23, which is the Safe Token Utility Sprint, and then Karpathy's Safe DAO Treasury Management Core Unit. So you can see all of those on our snapshot. So where we are right now, we are in we are on week 2 of our sprint, which is 4 weeks long. We are in phase 1, which means that the proposal drafts are on the forum, and we're having this call. And then up until the 29th, at least 3 delegates with enough signaling power will just signal that the proposal is ready to move on. This proposal is this signal is not meant to kind of state their stance on it. It's just to confirm that that it has followed the procedures correctly. So coming up, we're going to go into week 3, which is going to move us into phase 2, and that's when any of the proposals that get the sufficient signaling will move on to submission into Snapshot for voting. So keep an eye on for the voting period, which is going to be May 1st to the 12th. And we're in sprint 3, so our seasons have 4 sprints, and the 4th one is always on governance review and amendments. So there's not any proposals that go through at that time. So that being said, for this time, we're going to actually have 3 presentations from Palmera. Is going to go first. It's going to be, because we have a packed agenda, I'm going to be fairly strict on the 5-minute mark, and we will have a little 5 minutes for Q&A. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Palmera. You can have, who is here from Palmera? Do we have folks on? Okay, maybe they're not on the call yet. So then maybe we're going to hand it off to Emmanuel. Are you here for Ethereum 2077? Okay. Then I see, Kevin, you're here, so I'm going to hand it off to you to kick us off on the boardroom, which is the community catalyst program.
For sure, yeah, that definitely works. Hi, everyone, great to be here. I'm quickly going to share my screen name and let me know if you guys can see this properly. Is that showing up the presentation?
It's just loading. Oh, it's good.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet here. I know I only have 5 minutes, but Boredom is proposing kicking off a Safe Community Catalyst program. This is really aimed at essentially addressing a challenge in information overload when it comes to the growing safe ecosystem, both from the product side as well as the organizational side and the DAO itself. So it's creating a really, really targeted program with very measurable KPIs that can essentially allow us to onboard and see increases in engagement for a small cohort of engaged stakeholders or users. But primarily, it's essentially helping us build a foundation of proper documentation and onboarding tracks that are really targeted and can then hopefully be expanded to allow folks to onboard more easily into the ecosystem, both from a participant perspective, contributor perspective, and most importantly, user perspective, as the ecosystem grows in complexity and information overload does become more and more of a problem. So some timelines and milestones for these tracks, essentially it's a series of digital events and one physical gathering at the end of the program with specific tracks for different stakeholder personas. So the first one is a contributor type, the second one is users. Of course, this can be updated. The third one is governance participant or delegate. And the program will culminate in a 2-day workshop event where we're actually engaging different external ecosystem participants as well from different DAOs to also bring in learnings in onboarding users, contributors, participants into a DAO-style organization. Some of the key aspects of the program include those pre-gathering workshops I mentioned where we really establish initiative ownership and task track management, so who's actually doing what. The onboarding tracks are separated by stakeholder personas, as I mentioned. The in-person summit is a fantastic place for us to actually bring everyone together and create some group cohesion as well around that program. We're expecting around maybe 50 to 100 participants for the different tracks. And of course, all in the meantime, we're actually building the supportive resources for all of these onboarding tracks too. Everything from the actual landing spots where People can actually start their safe journey if they're interested in contributions and actually becoming a user, etc. And of course, most importantly, we're actually setting very, very measurable KPIs, right? So like all of this is really focused on having a small cohort that we can very easily measure both initial onboarding engagement in, but also longer term engagement. That's why at the end of the program, a month after, we'll actually be coming back and creating measurable reports to see if engagement has lasted. Some metrics to highlight, numbers of users onboarded, the completion of tracks themselves, the importance summit attendance, the number of actionable insights and initiatives that have actually come out of the program. So if a new contributor, new delegate, for example, proposes something new in an OBRA proposal, that would be something interesting. And things that can be essentially looked back on. This will be all included in a report at the end of the program, and as I mentioned as well, a month or 2 months after as well to measure long-term engagement. The funding request essentially it's mostly a breakdown of the admin costs as well as primarily the gathering and event costs. So the 3 digital events as well as the in-person event are actually going to that's where the bulk of the funding is going, as well as the community and content facilitation too. We are probably experimenting with a little bit of rewards as well with these onboarding tracks. So we left a small pot there for admin and rewards as well. And I think that's pretty much it. I'll leave it up to Q&A now, and I'll open up the actual proposal here just in case. Of course, everyone can read it on the forum, but just in case I can answer any questions now, I'm open to that.
Amazing, thanks. We have some time for questions. No questions? Then I think we're going to go ahead and switch back. Maybe just double checking. I don't see Emmanuel or the Palmera team here, but if you are, please let me know ASAP. If not, we're going to go ahead and start with, oh, let me know if you guys can see my screen. So just before we start the discussion, I just want to set the context here. So although we are having a call on treasury management, there is going to be 2 separate calls coming to be scheduled. So anything related specifically to Karpathy's proposal on treasury and their treasury management plans will be on a separate call. And then there will also be an additional call for Safe DAO onboarding, which is for anyone who's new. So questions like what is happening in the governance call, how is the foundation set up, how is the relationship to the foundation and the DAO, those we will go through in a separate call for onboarding. So with that, I'm going to kick us off with our discussion on treasury management. But before we start, I just want to give a little bit of context to our call. So first, we really want to thank everybody who was just vocal in the threads and voting comments. This helps us really gather sentiment around the topics to actually have something like these types of discussions. So please continue to comment on threads. When you vote, add comments, and this will help us kind of get more signal on some of these discussion points. And so this one, I just want to reiterate, this is on general treasury management. So this call is essentially what we should have had before a proposal on treasury management, what would have been a call around treasury management, objectives, goals, and so on. And so the idea is for us to think about what our objective as a DAO, the objectives are, not necessarily specifics on the execution plan, because this is, in the end, only a very short call, so there's no way we can come up with the entire plan in one. There's an incredible amount of people in this call with experience from the investment side, from running treasury management, being in treasury management working groups, and so on. So I really encourage you guys to bring different lessons from the other DAOs or different moments that you guys have seen from other industry leaders. So now to just kick it off, I just want to state one thing. So a quick explainer on the various Safe DAO treasuries. So we have the Safe DAO treasury itself, which is that original allocation that went to the DAO. And technically, these are under the books of the foundation. So the foundation is sort of managing the treasury. There is a separate treasury, the joint treasury, which is with Gnosis DAO and Safe DAOs, and this is not managed by the foundation. And as SAP 24 went through, Kapaki is the responsible party for that management. So just for the sake of clarity on this conversation, we do want to just have the discussion focus on the Safe DAO treasury and we can always have that joint treasury discussion on the call with Kapaki in the next one. So kicking us off, again, talking about what are objectives, what are the KPIs, what is the DAO wanting to optimize for when it comes to treasury management. And maybe something we could add from our perspective is currently the DAO has our quote burn rate is from OBRA initiatives that we set for the season, which in Sprint 4, we will have to redefine that budget just to kind of like refill. And the grants, potentially the grants, which is what the grants program, which initially the foundation covered as wave 1 and wave 2, but can essentially move over to the DAO when if appropriate. And although there is no strong income streams now, there is a lot of potential for fees to come in from token utility program or plans or from say, the wallet, so on. So those are not really defined yet. So technically we have no income streams or revenue streams. So just with that context, maybe one more is that the admin costs to run the DAO are currently covered by the foundation. So this is like the governance team, for example, or the forum infrastructure, things like this. But obviously, in the future, in the long run, that's potentially something that the DAO is going to start managing. So maybe to kick us off, maybe someone from Stable Lab or Areta, someone who has kind of seen the initial stages. I know Areta or Stable Lab, you guys have been working on the Uniswap working group as well. So just kind of thinking about what are the things we should be, as a DAO, focusing on to set initial objectives for what the treasury should be. I don't know if anyone from your team would like to speak to start us off. Okay, perfect. Citron is also in the queue.
Yeah, also happy to share our thoughts and being mindful there are a couple of treasury management parties also on the call, so looking forward to to hear a mix of views on those topics. Having been in some of these situations in Arbitrum and also been in touch with the team on the Uniswap side, I think in like the situation of Safe right now, there's no rush necessarily in trying to establish treasury management just from the get-go to have it right. I think we always advocate to take a step back and actually thinking through what does Safe want to do with the treasury before putting anything in place. And I think Uniswap working group that now has been put into place, and now Carpet Keys also on the call and is a part of that. So obviously love to hear their experiences on that front. I think is a good first step to really smarten us up in the DAO on what would be the best way forward, but then also really finding alignment between the different stakeholders. So I think what we should prevent is just for the sake of it and just to have treasury management get anything in place, but rather digest it and be clear about our objectives on what to do with the treasury.
Thanks for sharing that. Also, Citroen, Citroen, do you want to?
Yes. Hello. So, Amy, first one point regarding Discord, since a lot of people are here. It's not such a problem right now, but in the future, I would suggest to start a stage so you can pull up people onto the stage and only allow them. Makes things easier to manage. Also, you can raise hands, etc. So makes it easier for you to manage who speaks, etc. Which is not a problem right now, but it will be in the future. So regarding the treasury management, some people maybe know, some don't. I worked as a developer advocate for the IOTA Foundation, and I've seen a lot, my fair share of things. Let's say, let's call it that. I would try just for you as a community in general. Not right now, but in general, I would try to focus on developing, on development, etc., and not too much on, let's call it, crypto bros, especially in the context of safe. So if you can define KPIs or some way of measuring how good you in that regard, you end up being more successful in the long run. Maybe not in the short run regarding the price right now and the price in a couple of months, but over the years you will win this. That's pretty much it. Try to focus on practical things and not too much on marketing bullshit. I've seen it from other crypto project as well, which popped up. I mean, IOTA was the fourth largest at some point. So from up to down, I've seen it all at this point. Yeah, that's all.
Thanks for sharing. Karaki, do you want to? Marseille, sorry. Isaiah, are you here? Or are you having trouble connecting?
Hey, hello. This is Marcelo, co-founder of Karpatki. I wanted to give some of our thoughts around the safe treasury, a little bit coming from our experience managing other treasuries, but also specifically to safe, which, well, you know, Karpatki is also a spin-off from Agnosis, so we've been with safe together building for many years already. So we think we have some idea of how would be the best way to manage to achieve SAFE's vision. And yeah, I will mention a few initiatives we've been thinking about. First of all, this is going to be a large amount of work. So we're going to require different service providers, different parties to achieve SAFE's vision. The most important in the beginning is survival. How can we make sure we have enough runway in the DAO to pay salaries, to continue working on the DAO without being independent, without depending on the funds from the foundation. So that would be goal number one. So it's mostly about diversification in the beginning, how to get some cash to be able to fund these salaries or initiatives. Then we can start thinking about other things that are really nice to have. One of them is raising debt. This is something that can be particularly interesting for token holders because we wouldn't have to raise capital or sell safe to other investors, but we could just get some debt and start bootstrapping all of our efforts from debt, which is, you know, for a DAO who's this big, it's not going to disappear. So I think it's a very attractive for lenders to give funds to us. Another one is investing, and I think we're going to require several ecosystem funds because the stuff we can build on Safe is so wide, so many opportunities we have, from gaming, DeFi, and well, all sort of verticals. And I'm sure there will be specialists in each of these areas. So I suspect there will be several teams investing. The way we envision this is having some part of safe, plus maybe strategic VCs who already invested in safe, provide these funds to bootstrap more teams building on top of safe and growing the ecosystem. Because that's, I particularly think that's the way we're going to grow Safe much more. Having this injection of capital in everybody or the good teams who want to build on top of Safe. Of course, we would have to have some safeguards to avoid having Safe sold in secondary markets. This is something I always tell the team. We don't want to repeat the mistakes Ethereum did with the ICOs in 2018. So this is some of the initiatives. Another important one is market making in the centralized exchanges. We learned during the first day of the token launch that this is an on-chain movement, and most of the people interested in Safe are on-chain users. So there will be no other party most interested in Safe than the Safe DAO, which means that the best market making is going to be the DAO itself. And this is something we saw yesterday in the volumes. Centralized exchanges were not that important, like decentralized exchanges. Uniswap dominated the trading volume, and Karpathy was able to support the price with providing liquidity. So we were able to buy Safe all the way, since the beginning. We were able to buy in the secondary market. So I suspect this is going to be larger in the future, with Safe DAO supporting the price and always being long Safe. And I think I'm sure we have many others, but I know it would be a much longer conversation. But these are some of the thoughts we have, and we're hiring. We're making this quite large team that will work on all of these DAO treasury initiatives.